celery, I just press print, and then it just prints it
You just press.
on my computer. It
Oh,
didn't give
this
me
is.
any problem.
Come, come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, or your skin, you are welcome here. No matter how you came here, if you came alone or with others, you are welcome here. No matter whom you love or how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes, you are welcome here. If you come with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands, then you are indeed welcome here. Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of New Orleans. For almost 200 years, this congregation has been a beacon of liberal faith, spiritual growth, and commitment to making our community and our world a better place for all. Thank you for joining us. I am Henry Jermaine McCarthy, and my pronouns are he, him, and we. If you are a visitor, we invite you to raise your hand so that we can greet you. Welcome. As a lay-led congregation, we invite a variety of worship leaders of various traditions and experiences to give the sermon and contribute to other parts of our service. Our worship leader today is Reverend Sara Green, who is an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister and a mom and an artist. Welcome back. And this is part 3 of her 3-part series on the stories we tell and the people we become. Please indicate by voice or gesture if you can't hear the speakers, and please mute your cell phone. Please rise in body or spirit and join me as we read our call to awareness and amends and our chalice lighting. You'll find the call to awareness and amends at the QR code on the back cover or on the back cover of your gray hymnal. I will read the text in regular font, and please respond with the italicized text. We gather today at a crossroads, which means the place of many tongues. But we are newcomers to this land. Know that we gather the spoils of colonialism and broken treaties. Acknowledging this history is just the first step. Where we have harmed, where we have taken, where we have disparaged, just as the flame of our chalice, we add life-giving water to earth. Only when we strive to make amends, please remain as you are as we light the chalice of our heritage, and join me in reading the words that you will find in your order of service or at the QR code. We light our chalice this morning, light of our creative spirits, light of our wise souls, light of our wondering and curious minds, light of love for this place, this people, this work. Illuminate our hearts and the spaces between them in this sacred time of unfolding. Blessed be.
Please remain as you are for our first hymn, number 126. Fill our hearts with joy and love, ever to be faithful may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to within. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of the day. Find ourselves in unison, help our hands tell of our love. With the aid of fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
For our story time for all ages, we have a special presentation this morning by our wonderful pianist, Jane Jensen.
Yeah, we'd like to invite those young and young at heart to join us on the carpet circles.
Is it? I don't know why that's going to work. Should it be in the front? Yeah.
Use this one because it bends.
Oh, yeah. Zip. Is that working? Can people hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm moving over from my usual spot on the piano bench as pianist for the church to do the Time for All Ages story today because I have an announcement to make in person to the congregation. And I'd hope to include with it a story about one of my favorite moments during my 27 years here at the church. Since the theme of Reverend Sarah's service today is the stories we tell and the people we become, the time for all ages seemed like a suitable moment to do my announcement. And this part of the service usually includes a story. So, first to my announcement. I am retiring from my position as the church pianist as of the last worship service that our congregation has in this building. Under the terms of the current agreement First Church has with the buyer of the building, that last service will likely be sometime in the first half of June. So I'll be around until then, keeping up with my piano playing, and also I'll be helping with the move. However, that's going to play out. As I mentioned, I've been in this job for nearly 27 years, and it's been under 7 different ministers, including 2 interims. And if you all don't know what an interim is, it's someone who is the minister for a short period of time, usually while the church is looking for a more permanent minister, and also under 6 different music directors. I'm 76 years old, and my husband, Charlie Johnson, is 82. And we want to be able, among other things, to spend more time at a getaway place we have had for about 7 years in Tarpon Springs, Florida. And Tarpon Springs is an old Florida town on the Gulf Coast that was founded over 100 years ago by sponge fishermen from Greece. And Charlie's daughter, Amy, and her husband live in Clearwater, just about 30 minutes from our place. And we want to be with them more while we're still relatively energetic. And Tarpon Springs, by the way, has a very lovely and historic Unitarian church that has in its sanctuary a beautiful set of well-known paintings by a local artist of landscapes from the early 20th century. And when Charlie and I first started going to our place in Tarpon Springs, that church was surrounded by a maze of construction fencing. And what had happened, we have hurricanes, but Florida has what's called sinkholes. And a sinkhole develops under the ground, and whatever's on top of it sinks. And this happened to the Unitarian Church in Tarpon Springs. And I went to one of their services when they were having community center services. And I did a little testimonial at the end of the service telling them that I was the piano player at a Unitarian church in New Orleans, and we had been Katrina'd really badly. And I told them, look, y'all, you're going through trying times, but you will survive this. And it was sort of like a little pep talk. Now, having been around this church as a pianist for a very long time, I quite naturally have some stories to tell. And one of my favorites is this. It was November of 2001, and this was just months after the Twin Tower skyscrapers in New York had been knocked down and destroyed by terrorists in the Middle East. And those of you who are older remember all of this. The younger generation may not. The nation was in shock, and President Bush had ordered U.S. military troops to be sent to Afghanistan to search for and deal with the terrorists who were supposedly behind this. However, life had to go on, and at First Church, the choir and many other church members and friends had been working hard for many, many weeks, putting together and rehearsing a musical cabaret show called the Bayou Bash. And this was going to be a fundraiser for the church. And the cabaret numbers, of which there would be 18, included singing and skits and dance numbers, featuring different combinations of performers. And the show was to be held on a Saturday night beginning at 7 o'clock in the fellowship hall, which at the time, and this was before Katrina, had a stage that was built all across the end. In addition, several church members had built out from the stage into the middle of the room a runway-type performance extension where some of the cabaret action was going to be taking place. Can you all still hear me? Yeah, good, okay. About 10 minutes to 7, and remember, the cabaret was supposed to start at 7 o'clock. About 10 minutes to 7, I was at the piano in a half-dark sanctuary doing some very hasty last-minute rehearsing of a musical number with one of the choir members when a man came running up what was then the center aisle. And he was calling out, "Please, can you tell me where the minister is? He's supposed to marry me and my fiance tonight. I'm a soldier, and I'm shipping out to Afghanistan tomorrow." We were supposed to be here at 6:30, but we got tied up in traffic, and then I couldn't find the church. So he sounded pretty desperate. I tried to calm him down and explain that Reverend Guy Lamoth, who was the first church minister at the time, was about to go on stage as the master of ceremonies at a cabaret show the church was holding, but I'd see if I could find him. To make a long story somewhat shorter, I did find Reverend Guy, and he was all dressed up in formal evening wear, in this outfit we call white tie, for his role as master of ceremonies. And he said he'd been waiting for the couple to arrive at the church so he could marry them in his office before the cabaret started. But the music was now about to begin, and the audience was in place, and he didn't want to throw the whole thing off and the whole timing of the evening. So he came up with a plan. And this was in keeping with the whole old saying, the show must go on. So unbeknownst to almost all of the people attending the cabaret, in the audience were a man and a woman in regular street clothes who wanted very much to get married that night. And on stage was the minister who was supposed to be doing the marrying, but who was very busy as master of ceremonies, keeping the whole cabaret going. However, just before he'd gone on stage, Reverend Guy whispered to two of the other performers. One was dressed up in a pink satin evening gown, and the other in a fancy black tuxedo, that he had a special job for them to help him with on the stage's runway during the intermission. And lo and behold, when the final number of the first half of the cabaret concluded, time for intermission, out onto the stage came the couple. And Reverend Guy read them their wedding vows and pronounced them man and wife, with the performer in the pink satin ball gown and the man in the fancy black tuxedo serving as the official witnesses. And in an act of support to make the ceremony more traditional for the bride, a friend of the woman in the pink satin ball gown, who was helping backstage with the cabaret, had torn a piece of white netting off the scenery on the back of the stage and had made a veil for the bride. Then I had an idea to make the occasion even more romantic for the couple. The church choir, and the music director was Mariana Langston at the time, and we were all sitting near the stage's runway since the choir had been singing a bunch of the numbers. I knew the choir's music folders still had in them a particular piece the choir had sung at a worship service some weeks before. And I whispered to Mariana to have the choir quickly get out their folders from under their chairs, and I got out mine, and we spontaneously serenaded the bridal couple with the very beautiful Andrew Lloyd Webber piece, "Love Changes Everything." Then Reverend Guy invited the now married couple to stay for the rest of the cabaret, and when the show was over, about 45 minutes later, the audience chairs were pushed back, and the recorded music came on for everybody to dance to, but true to the usual tradition of weddings, the bride and groom had the first dance. Many in the audience had thought the wedding on the stage had been an act, just a rehearsed part of the cabaret, and everyone was very touched to learn that the ceremony had in fact been the real deal. And the man was a soldier going off to Afghanistan the next day. It was a really unexpectedly magical evening. And though we never heard what ultimately happened with the young man and his bride, I like to think that they lived happily ever after. And that's our main story for today. However, I have another true story about romance that's connected to the church and has been very personal and life-changing for me. I met my dear husband, Charlie Johnson, here. Charlie has come to First Church worship services from time to time, going all the way back to the 60s when the church was down the street. And he's been a faithful volunteer every year at the Christmas tree sale ever since. I'd been the piano player at First Church for only a few weeks. This was way back in 1997 when a man came up to me at coffee hour and introduced himself. It was Charlie. Well, one thing led to another. And we've recently very happily celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. Charlie has a wonderful daughter from a previous marriage, Amy Johnson Tower, who I mentioned earlier today. So I can thank my piano player job at First Church for a huge number of blessings in my life. Charlie's here today. Stand up, darling. So, returning for a moment to my retirement, I want to say that the reason I have stayed at the church as long as I have is that I truly like and care about all the people here. And I've always enjoyed making music for and with y'all. And y'all have become my friends. You know, I'm going to start to cry. Let me compose myself. I'll miss coming to church, but from time to time, I will show up at worship services, and I know I'll treasure seeing all of you again. And my best wishes to you all. And you all will always have a special place in my heart. And I'll still be around till June.
I want to invite you all to finish arriving, to feel yourself in your seats, your feet on the floor, perhaps soften your gaze or close your eyes. And join me in a moment of prayer and then silent meditation. Spirit of springtime, we gather this morning so in awe of all that you are, and in turn, all that it reveals that we are. We gather in gratitude for one another in seasons upon seasons upon seasons of change and transformation and grief, both collectively, but in our own teeny tiny but magnificent lives. We ask that you remind us that we do not go any road alone, and that we have the people in this room, outside, and our cloud of witnesses that are cheering us on, that are whispering words of affirmation in the stillness when we think we're alone, and that are building roads ahead of us that we can't even imagine. May we rest in that peace and affirmation during this season and afterwards, and may we return to that again and again and again as life keeps lifing. May it be so. And now let us enter into a healing silence. and small, deep inside home, I hear you call, singing. In dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Please join me now in our responsive reading, number 465. I will read the regular text, and you all can follow in the italicized. The wisdom to survive. If we will have the wisdom to survive, to stand like slow-growing trees on a ruined place, if we will make our seasons welcome here, asking not too much of earth or heaven, their houses strongly placed upon the valley sides, and over it, bird song like a canopy. On the steeps where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, the veins of forgotten springs will have opened. Families will be singing in the fields. They will take nothing from the ground. They will not return, whatever the grief at parting. The abundance of this place, the song of its people and its birds, will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. Good morning, everybody. Great. This is part 3 of our The Stories We Tell and the People We Become series. And if you are just joining us for the first time this morning, here's where we've sort of been. The first part of the series, we talked about why we tell stories, to connect, to inspire, to perform, all the reasons what we tell stories, to teach. Then we talked about what stories we tell. Our lives are filled with so many stories, but we all have the ones that are kind of our go-to elevator speech of ourselves, the one we really hunker down to form things like our identity. Today we're going to talk about how we tell a story. And so I was researching for this morning, and well, first of all, I'm a fan of The Moth, and they have a great book about how to tell a story I highly recommend. And so I'll be drawing on a little bit of that. But as I was reading and reflecting about how people have studied how to tell a story, there are dissertations, etc., on how to tell the best story. But as I was researching, I saw a parallel between storytelling and gathering. And I started to think of this book called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. Also a fantastic read. And I would read it, some passages, and start to replace when she would say gathering with storytelling. And so this morning I'll play with the relationship between how gatherings are moments where we tell stories and how we tell stories by how we gather, and the play between the two. We tell stories around meals, campfires. You can't really tell a story by yourself. I mean, you could. So the first piece of wisdom that Priya gives us about storytelling is that we ought to have the end in mind. She says, reverse engineer an outcome. Think of what you want to be different because you gathered, and work backward from that outcome. What I think is important here is that sometimes I see people get tripped up by trying to engineer the perfect outcome, the perfect beloved community. And don't you think we get a little stuck in trying to articulate and wordsmith our way to the perfect beloved community? But that's not what Priya Parker says here. She says, think of what you want to be different because you gathered. It's a little more bite-sized, a little more manageable, and it gives room for the stories and the people who hear them to co-create the outcome. She drills down a little bit. See, the stories we tell. She drills down a little bit. That's not what I mean to say. As an example, she clarifies her point by adding that specificity sharpens the gathering because people can see themselves in it. Again, it's not this, we have to wordsmith our way into something perfect, but the specificity helps people get a foothold into what we're building. What are the stories we're telling by gathering here each Sunday? And why does it matter? As we're in this moment of transition and reformulating who we know ourselves to be, I would love for us to ask what we want to be different after we each leave here. In our homes, in our city, in our communities as they are uniquely described. But more risky of a question in what we're doing here this Sunday, do you see yourself in it? And who might not? So with a sort of goal of reverse engineering the outcome, knowing where we're going, with some room for transformation, people call that the Holy Spirit sometimes, then we can start to think about how form follows function. So from there we craft a story. I would argue some of the most powerful stories with two things. We craft stories with emotion. Of the people we want gathered around our campfire to listen to our stories, what emotions do they feel regularly? What emotions, the people gathered here this morning, what do they want to feel? When we're crafting a story, we have to think about our audience, because stories, like identity, are a little bit of a two-way street. You ever had something of yourself that you construct in your own mind, and then you share it with someone, and then you learn how they are perceived, how you are perceived by them, and it's a conversation. Some parts of our identities are like that. When I identify as a woman, I have an idea of that in my mind a little bit, but then when I share it and it's met with culture, then it's a conversation. And it's a push and pull to come to a shared meaning, which is also to say that if I say that I'm a woman in Cambodia and I'm met with culture there, it's a different conversation. But emotions and how we feel, the push and pull between our stories and how they're perceived in the world, directly impacts our decision making about everything we do together. So I get a little bit of stewardship and fundraising emails about the science of getting people to act. And a couple of weeks ago, I got an email that stopped me in my tracks because the title quote said something like, "Reason can't work without emotion. People who are cut off from their emotions can't decide." Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That is the power of emotions in our story. When we tell stories without emotion, people are left listening and unsure what to do. You ever heard a story where you left and you're unsure what to do? You're a little bit like, okay, now what? Emotions are what make the story alive. First Church needs to make some decisions. So I wonder, how much deeper can we get in touch with our emotions? I know that there's storytelling and packing parties that happened yesterday, but I hear there are more to come. That's an excellent vehicle to dig deeper into our emotions so that we can come to a table grounded and ready to decide. We also tell the story with our bodies. We put our bodies in specific postures and motions that reflect our values. Some might call that rituals. Some who grew up in Catholic churches might know how much the up and down and all the motions in Mass tell us about the stories of ourselves, as an example. But I also came across this poem by Lon Woodrum that feels like a ritual as well. It goes like this. I met a stranger in the night whose lamp has ceased to shine. I paused and let him light it, his lamp from mine. A tempest sprang upon later on and shook the world about. And when the wind was gone, my lamp was out. But back came to me the stranger. His lamp was glowing fine. He held the precious flame and lighted mine. This poem, and subsequently the values, are just so clear. I can almost picture this interaction, this ritual of strangers becoming not strangers through lighting each other's candles. I think that's what the power of rituals has for our stories is that they imagine us doing the thing we talk about. Have you ever talked about doing a thing? Maybe we talked about it for a long, 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 long time, and you have all of this baggage associated with what's it gonna be? Anticipation, anxiety even, fear. And then sometimes we get to practice the thing. I just did a wedding rehearsal on Friday. We practiced the thing. We put our bodies in motion so that when we get to the moment, we know what to do. As a dancer, I grew up with this concept of muscle memory. It's a thing we all have. That's how we walk. That's how we lift things. That's how we talk even, muscle memory. That's in part the magic of rituals. And rituals are in part the magic of telling an impactful story. Priya Parker gives us a note on how we open stories that I think work well with the emotional need of a story and also the body. She says, your opening needs to be a kind of pleasant shock therapy. It should grab people. And in grabbing them, it should both awe the guests and honor them. It must plant in them a paradoxical feeling of being totally welcomed and deeply grateful to be there. What if we told stories like that, where people came away from that feeling totally welcomed and deeply grateful? We've already heard a few powerful stories about a pianist who has served this community dutifully, and there are more to come in the service. Let those stories sink in and move you. I dare you to be both totally welcomed and deeply grateful to hear the stories that we're about to hear. But as an ending, I want to share a last quote from Priya twice. I want to read you the original version where she talks about the art of gatherings. And then I want to read it again using storytelling. She writes, why do we gather? We gather to solve problems that we can't solve on our own. We gather to celebrate, to mourn, and to mark transitions. We gather to make decisions. We gather because we need one another. We gather to show strength. We gather to honor and acknowledge. We gather to build companies and schools and neighborhoods. We gather to welcome and we gather to say goodbye. But here's the great paradox of gathering. There are so many great reasons for coming together that often we don't precisely know why we're doing so. So here's the remix. Why do we tell stories? We tell stories to solve problems that we can't solve on our own. We tell stories to celebrate, to mourn, to mark transitions. We tell stories to make decisions. We tell stories because we need one another. We tell stories to show strength. We tell stories to honor and acknowledge. We tell stories to build companies and schools and neighborhoods. We tell stories to welcome, and we tell stories to say goodbye. But here's the great paradox of storytelling. There are so many great reasons for telling stories that often we don't know precisely why we're doing so. So, as we listen and tell stories, may we be sharp in our purpose, deeply in touch with our emotions, uniquely connected with one another, but most of all, may our stories move others to service, solidarity, and action. May it be so, and amen.
Good morning. Named after our founding minister, the Theodore Clapp Award was initiated in 1976 by church members who wanted to formally recognize First Unitarian Universalist Church heroes. The Theodore Clapp Award is for church members who work year in, year out, and often with little or no recognition. To be defined as an appropriate Clapp Award recipient, a person must make a continuous contribution to the church in the form of volunteer service for a period of at least 10 years. Recipients of the award may, by their service, be considered church leaders. However, it is their behind the scenes and in the trenches efforts that are being recognized. Recognition with other church awards, including the Charles A. Allen Award or the Oscar Flowers Award, should not preclude a member from attaining the Theodore Clapp Award. The award is given by a committee. This committee is defined as former award winners who are still active in the church, and so are aware of the contributions of time and effort of congregational members. Awards will be made from time to time as the committee determines that there is an individual to be recognized. There shall not be an annual award, but awards may be given annually. The Theodore Clapp Committee is independent of the formal organization of the church and exists as a self-governing and self-perpetuating body. The committee will be activated by the call of any member, with all members participating in any decision. The committee as a whole will decide on the manner and time of the presentation of the award. 33 FUNO members have received this award since 1976. The first was Lawrence J. Dubartel. That was followed in 1977 by Paulie Dorlando. Hugh Evans received the award in 1978, John S. Gillespie in 1980, Albert Dorlando in 1981, Karen Madison in 1983, and also Helen Hansen in 1983. Audrey Barnett in 1984, Mildred Gillespie in 1989, Pat Henry in 1993, Jerry Mulder in 1995, Max Eschker in 1996, Meg Dukowski in 1998, Charles Foster and Robert Olson in 2000, Anne McLean in 2001, John and Terry Walcott in 2002, Carlene Smith in 2003, Kathleen Hubble in 2004, R. Catherine Cohen in 2005, Mary Jo Day in 2007, Claudia Barker and Michael Tucker in 2009, Henry McCarthy in 2013, Linda and Chris Wren in 2014, Sherry LeBlanc and Jafia Christos Rogers in 2016, Veronica Young, Jody Manelli, Maggie Mackay, and Angie Palazzolo in 2022. Which brings us to the 5 recipients of the award for 2024. Alice Camp has been a member of FUNO since 2001. I got to know Alice when she facilitated a discussion group exploring feminist theology. After Katrina, she was involved with the formation of the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal. She was chair of the membership team and organized several New You classes. She co-led the Spirit and Practice class with Reverend Paul. She was president of the congregation in 2015 when we were undertaking significant improvements throughout our building. She served as a worship associate and assisted Reverend Paul with pastoral care before the formation of the Caring Circle. Alice also organized a church rummage sale and was a stalwart stewardship volunteer. Both Alice and Wayne Moore were Christmas tree sale volunteers. Wayne Moore attended church events with Alice, but did not join the church until after Katrina. With a strong background in banking and finance, Wayne served on the finance team for nearly a decade. He spearheaded the negotiations with the UUA to refinance our mortgage that allowed us to construct our community kitchen and address other repairs to the building necessitated by Katrina. Wayne participated in the recreation of our sanctuary and was one of the very few volunteers who scaled the scaffolding to install the fabric covering the ceiling. I am pleased and proud to announce that Alice Camp and Wayne Moore are among the 5 recipients of the 2024 Theater Clap Award. And I would love it if Alice and Wayne could come up here and receive this award.
Grateful to all of you for your acknowledgement. I'm honored.
And now Claudia Barker will award the Next Person Clap Award.
Congratulations, Alice and Wayne. So good to see you all. My name is Claudia Barker. I've been a member of the church since our youngest was 2 months old, so that's 28 years. And I've seen a lot of people give a lot of themselves to this beloved community. One of those people is Noel Twilbeck, who has been a stalwart member of our leadership for decades. He has had a profound impact on the life of our beloved congregation. About 15 years ago, I got to watch Noel's work his magic when he was the CEO of the No AIDS Task Force, and we were trying to restore this flooded and damaged building. And we had a kitchen that had been sort of the heart and soul of our place, because we had lots of meals and lots of fun. And we were trying to figure out a way that we could build it into a viable commercial community kitchen. And I watched Noel taking his board members and donors on a tour of our flooded church kitchen and showing them the vision that he had for rebuilding the kitchen so that the No AIDS Task Force Food for Friend program could continue its food ministry. They delivered about 800 meals a week, led by Noel's partner, Glenn, to people who were in need of food. And he managed to convince his board and his donors to invest, I think, about $1 million in that kitchen, including all of the building and the appliances. And as a professional fundraiser, I thought that this was just an act of magic, that he was able to lift this vision so that others invested in our church community. Well, that enabled us to develop our own food ministry and start the parties again here with food cooked by our diva chef and others. But more important, it became an asset in this building that is still paying dividends. It's one of the reasons why we got such a good offer when we decided to sell this building. It increased the value of the building and really became a factor in our ability to get an unsolicited offer on the building. Besides this magic, Noel served as president of the congregation, I'm pretty sure more than once, and most recently leaned into the leadership as co-president during the pandemic, leading us through a period of great change with much grace. He's currently serving as a member of our Ways Forward Committee, convening conversations with the community church about our opportunity to partner in the future as we try to rebuild our congregations post-pandemic. But it's the many other things that Noel has done and continues to do that you may not even know about. He's a guy who perceives a need and quietly fills it. All the while singing in the choir. Like the time when he and Glenn took on the organization of church work days, when that program needed leadership, or like when he and Glenn deliver pizza and other food to our Christmas tree volunteers, kind of without fail, every time we open the doors to sell trees. Or when he became our de facto building manager, dealing with our tenants, making sure they had what they need, and welcoming them into the building, giving them support that they needed to feel part of the family here. And the fact that he changes every HVAC filter in the building each month without fail, religiously, saving us tons of money and wear and tear on the very fragile system that we have, adding to the value of this amazing asset, the sale of which will ensure the continued health and sustainability of our beloved community. On behalf of the congregation, I'd like to thank you, Noel, for all that you do. We love you.
Hello, everyone. You may remember that Kathy said we had 5. 2 of those folks can't be here today, so part 2 next week. Hope y'all can join us.
Gifts to this community of faith are gratefully received. Let us acknowledge these gifts by reading, I jumped. Generosity is a spiritual discipline. We can now practice our act of giving either by placing your offering in the collection plate or by texting the word give to 504-608-7030. That number is 504-608-7030.
Let's sing. We learned this last month, so we'll do line by line. It's call and response, so we'll just get started, and if this is your first time hearing it, just jump in when you're ready. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how, one more time. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in.
Gifts to this community of faith are gratefully received. Let us acknowledge these gifts by reading together the words in your order of service. This gift from the abundance of my life blesses me, our ministries, and the world. Giving in the offering plate and pledging are part of how we steward this congregation. There are countless other ways to serve, build community, and share our love with the rest of the city and beyond. Here are two opportunities that we ask you to participate in today. First is, as part of the coffee hour fellowship time, we will have a Hot Topics talk to discuss and share information about the 4 church options that are the finalists in our Way Forward search for a temporary home that we will rent. And the second activity, which will also occur during the coffee hour, is Jean Bernard and others will be collecting money for a Ramadan food box that we will pay for so that World Central Kitchen, which is a fabulous organization that provides food to crisis situations. And in addition, there will be the continuation of the letter writing campaign to beseech our legislators to contribute their efforts to negotiate an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the Gaza area. Okay, we now will have our chalice extinguishing. Please stand in body or spirit to join in our chalice extinguishing, which is in your order of service. But in the back of my head, I heard also the angel song, imagining that miraculous life full of spectacular greatness or simple, ordinary human wonder. Fear not, the angels would text me. Hallelujah, I'd write back. Hallelujah, as all of us move forward, doing the next thing that is to be done, which is about all you can ask. Fear not, the angels say. Hallelujah, we write back. Let heaven and nature sing.
Please remain as you are for our last hymn, number 18. What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain, oh my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down beneath the sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round, oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends, pain and sorrow mend, with thanks until the end. I will sing, I will sing. With thanks until the end, I will sing. Don't put those up so quick. We're going to do our benediction together because there's just been so much collectivism today. Why stop now? Our benediction is going to be number 728. I'll read the plain, and you can follow with the italicized. Blessed are those who yearn for deepening more than escape, who are not afraid to grow in spirit. Blessed are those. Blessed are those who bring their children, who invite their friends to come along, to join in fellowship, service, learning, and growth. Blessed are those who know that the church is often imperfect, yet rather than harbor feelings of anger or disappointment, bring their concerns and needs to the attention of the church leaders. Blessed are those who speak their minds in meetings, who can take and give criticism, who keep alive their sense of humor. Blessed are they indeed, and blessed are we. May we go in peace. Until next time.
Thank you for joining us this morning. As we end our worship time together, let us be guided by the words of Maya Angelou. Try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud. Make every effort to change things that need to be changed. Be certain that you do not die without having done something wonderful for humanity. Please turn and warmly greet your neighbor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we talked. I forgot that Jane was going to play a song. I'm going to make an announcement after Jane's done because I want to get a award recipients.
Oh, okay, yes.
The announcements were so good.
I know.
I love how like just organically. I really want to get the photos.
Oh my God, I think we should do a church.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
I think it would, honestly, it would be like,
I thought that was way. It was very. It was exactly what I was supposed to. Yes. And very very powerful. Like really powerful. So just like I'd like to make one quick announcement really quick. If you are the recipient of the class